Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another day text. Today is Tuesday, May 7th, and we meet every weekday morning at 6 a.m., as well as Saturday mornings at 6 a.m., to consider a portion of the biblical record, the various documents and letters that are included in the Bible, as well as other related ancient texts and histories. So our goal is to become better informed about our past, specifically our past as it involves and relates to the God Jah and the different things that are recorded about him. We also consider other non-biblical texts at times that pertain to various events in the Bible. So we're working our way through the letter of 2 Peter, and at the beginning of each day text for a new letter or document, I go over the manuscript history so that you have some idea of the support that is behind these ancient texts. Good morning, everyone. So if you want some more information about the manuscript support or transmission history for the letter of 2 Peter, just go to the first video in the series on 2 Peter, where I provide some of that information. Okay, let's get right to the text. We're going to be reading two verses today. We're going to be reading 2 Peter 3 and just verses 9 and 10. And I think you'll see, as with yesterday's day text, we'll be able to get quite a bit out of just two verses. All right, so let's get right to it, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the events coming up later this week. 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 9 and 10. They read, "The Lord does not delay the promise, like some people regard delay. Instead, he waits patiently for you, for us, not intending for anyone to be wiped out. Rather, he continues to make allowance, intending for everyone to turn around." Verse 10, "But the day of the Lord will come like an intruder, during which the heavens will disappear with the sound of a loud wind. Then structures will be broken apart as they are burned, and land as well as humankind's handiwork in it will be plainly visible." So some interesting stuff here, to say the least. We talk about things often with respect to the world we live in and how conditions have been continuing since the beginning in ways that have been difficult, but also enjoyable depending on where you were born and during what time. And prior to this, in Peter's letter, he talks about those who basically would mock the Christians because they would say that the message that they're proclaiming about this coming of the Lord, or the end of the current world, it has been something they've been talking about for a long time. And then, of course, all the way back through to the promises made to people like Abraham and Moses. So just like today, we're sort of mocked by people who don't believe in these promises because they say, well, what's taking so long? To them, it's like it's just been going on forever. And then you add to that this ridiculous timeline that many so-called scientists have put together that really is just designed to support their impossible theory of evolution. But it makes them think that we've been around millions of years, not just a few thousand in terms of humanity. I'm not talking about the age of the earth. But when we talk about delay, remember yesterday we discussed time and how time to us is based on our position on the earth, its rotation, and the sun, the moon, and the stars that relate to each other in such a consistent manner that we're able to predict movements and base our entire day and calendar around these objects in relation to our existence. So, but with Jah, he could have a whole nother time scale. He not only is aware of our time scale and the system that he put in place to allow us to determine times and seasons, like Genesis states, and so he's not only able to enter in that structural, that measurement process, right? He could come into the earth during day, during night, and the events occurring in the earth would be subject to the conditions of time that are the measurements that are taking place with respect to all the different objects and people in relation to each other. So when we talk about Jah coming into time, we're really just talking about him coming into our system of measurement. And of course, if he's going to deal with humankind during the nighttime, then the humans at night would be enduring conditions that he would have to deal with in ways that he could, obviously, but he would have to account for the conditions that exist in the system of measurement that we use. But it wouldn't affect him. It wouldn't prevent him or limit him. He would just have to engage with us in the conditions that he put us in. So with Jah, he could be existing in a whole nother scale of time, a cosmic clock, if you will, that is based on movements of solar systems, galaxies, or things we're not even aware of. But again, so with Jah, when Peter says time, a day to him is like 1,000 years, well, his system of measurement is just totally different. And while it includes our smaller system of measurement, think of that as like the seconds hand, our system. This is just an analogy, but one way to kind of appreciate this is our system of measurement is like the seconds, and Jah's system of measurement is like the hours. You see, his measurement is different, and so it appears to go slower, but within which its actual movement is based on the smaller, more consistent and rapid movements of the seconds. Just an analogy, but it's designed to help you understand different scales of time that even we use, but all of which are based around the elements that I mentioned. So with Jah, it could be something totally different. So when we talk about delay, or when people get, they get down on themselves, or they think their conditions are so difficult, where is Jah? Right? Where is Jah, and why is it taking so long? Well, that just isn't really accurate. Jah is always here, things are always going on, and we're simply going through our period of judgment in life. So what we expect to happen isn't always going to take place according to the time scale of Jah. We exist in our time scale, and things occur in relation to us that Jah allows. But his scale is different and includes us. So we should not think of ourselves as the only scale of measurement taking place in ways that allow us to attribute delay to Jah, when in fact there's no delay at all. We are existing in the scale of time measurement that is set for us, but not for Jah. Jah's decisions are not based on our limited time scale. He created our time scale and system of measurement and all the things that comprise it, but he is not subject to it. He is the one who set it in motion, and so he's the one who oversees it. And then he also has his own time scale that he will use to determine when things should take place. So our scale and Jah's scale of time are just too different for us to be able to try to relate to him in the same way. We don't live as long, and obviously we're not as advanced. So it really makes no sense at all when you think about it for us to try to regard our time and things we consider delays as the same thing that would involve Jah, or that he would also be experiencing those same conditions and just not caring, right? That's not true. We have to go through this period, and we should not attribute it to Jah in the same way that we do, because he isn't. He's beyond and outside of it, even though he created and can come into our world or time scale system of measurement that exists that he created. Okay, so this idea of delay in time, I think we covered that pretty well, and I'll probably put up a video from yesterday and today, parts 1 and 2 on God and time, just so people have some more information about how it is that we use time on the earth in relation to the heavenly bodies and our own position on the earth as it rotates on its axis relative to others. And so we can define our time scale fairly easily. We just can't do so with Jah. We can kind of get an idea of what he may be doing and the things that could exist, like I said, with regard to the types of cosmic elements that he could be using. But this is just speculation based on existing elements that could likely be used by him. So we don't want to get too caught up in these things. And we, as Christian witnesses of Jah, we do not promote this idea of near the end all the time. And we're always aware. We know that Jah will bring an end to all the wickedness that exists. But we don't go around, constantly wondering when this is going to happen, as if, he owes us this expedient resolution to our conditions. We're on Jah's time. He's not on our time. So thinking of him as someone who's delaying would be inappropriate in a number of ways. And in fact, everything we know about Jah and his son, Jesus, and through his son, Jesus, tells us exactly what Peter tells us at the end of verse 9, and that is, he doesn't want anyone to be wiped out. He makes allowance for all of us because he wants us to turn around, just like he did with Cain all the way back near the beginning. But Jah's day will come. The earth and the heavens cannot continue to disobey him and fail to reflect his glory. That must be done. Jah must be praised. So that is why his day is coming like an intruder or a thief. You see, when you think of an intruder, it's sort of a negative thing. So why is Jah likening his coming, or the coming of his son, to this type of person? Because of the unexpected nature of a thief or an intruder. Most of us prepare for things. We're not, unaware of the possibility that there are bad people and they may try to break into our home and steal from us. So that's why the analogy is being used, because we're familiar with this element of worry involving an intruder or a thief, someone breaking in to take our stuff or hurt us. We're familiar with that concern, and we regularly prepare for it, even though we're not sure if it's going to happen. But Jah's day is going to happen. There's no doubt about it. So if we prepare for the coming of an intruder who may never come, but he or she could, and so we prepare. We don't want to be caught off guard, right? Who wants to who wants to have your house broken into and lose your valuable things or have your life threatened? None of us do. So we prepare. What about Jah? What about the coming of Jesus? Are we prepared? Well, the ways you prepare are by praising Jah for doing all these wonderful things, giving us this opportunity, making allowance, giving us time to turn around, and by following Jesus, treating others the way we want to be treated, asking for forgiveness when we make mistakes, and then forgiving people who ask for it. We don't do that, we're not going to get it. So there's just a few things, 3, we need to do. Praise Jah, promote Jesus and follow his example, and treat others the way we want to be treated. What's wrong with that? Give me one flaw in those 3 things. There's none. And they prepare us for everything. So when you look at verse 3, there's a lot to prepare for, because as we know in Revelation, it talks more about this, the coming of Jah, the New Jerusalem, the heavens disappearing because Jah is there. We won't need the sun and the moon anymore. Jah will light up the universe. And everything will be better and different in ways where no one will be able to sin again in the ways they did before without being dealt with quickly. Just like Revelation talks about, when even the devil is released and he misleads people to surround New Jerusalem. And of course, we're looking far ahead now. They're not allowed to do that very long. The Bible says that fire comes down out of heaven and destroys them. So this is in the future, though. I'm talking about a time when the ultimate ending will come. But what we're facing now is the end of the judgment period, where others will go forward and others will not. The judgment period where the heavens will not only disappear because Jah will be here, But all of the structures, all of the erections that have been built up on Jah's earth will be destroyed. And then we will see all of the handiwork of humankind back since the beginning. And even today we're seeing things uncovered, structures underwater and under the earth that are being revealed. But these things will be revealed by fire when Jah comes to execute judgment on everybody. So prepare yourself. We all must be ready. We have nothing to fear because we all have to go forward anyway, right? We trust in Jah. Promote him everywhere you can. Talk about him everywhere you can that makes sense. Don't do it just to do it and then have people not understand what you're saying or be confused as to why you're talking now. Pick the right time. Pick the right place. Pick the right people. Because you have the right God. And we know we have the right Messiah because, as I'm going to show starting this Sunday, we have pre-Christian evidence pointing to things that only Jesus did and that really at this point no one else can do. Because the world has changed. The things that were in existence back then to allow for these things to occur no longer exist. So it's either Jesus or no one or some other thing that's happening. But that's not what the best available evidence says. The best available evidence is very clear, all the way back. And we can even see the rivers where they were, the four of them flowing into the one running through Eden. All of that. It's all there for us. The structures of Sodom and Gomorrah, the events of the flood. We have it all. We have the evidence that shows Jah and the things that he did and the people that he used. And so we're next. We are next. And I think it's something more amazing than we realize. And we probably won't realize it until later. Just how amazing of a time we were living in when we got to do all these things to praise Jah before the end comes. That's great, right? Even if the end comes in a year, 10 years, 100 years, that's not our concern. Our concern is Jah, Jesus, and other people for as long as we are allowed to live. And then we leave it to Jah to say whether or not we live again. So we trust entirely in him. Our service is not based on this idea that the end is impending. It's going to be any day now. Maybe. That's not why we do this. We do this because we believe in Jah. And we believe in Jesus. And we believe that treating others the way we want to be treated is the best way to live. Mistakes aside, right? And we believe in forgiving others when they make mistakes so we don't get too down on each other and can't continue to be productive in spite of our failures. So question in the chat, are you doing field work like JW people do, Greg? Well, I don't go door to door on a regular basis like they do, and primarily because I don't believe that's very effective, especially where I live. Most people don't like it when you come to their door unexpectedly, and they're not prepared to receive you. They don't usually have the time because they weren't expecting you. I'm not saying you can't do that. Do whatever you want. However you can reach people, that's what you should do. But I just don't see the value in repeatedly going to different people's homes without them knowing and under conditions where they're not expecting me. So I'm kind of just taking a chance. This Watchtower's doing that, but that's their process. That's what they do. I don't believe that's exactly how the early Christians did it. I believe they taught in homes. They would go to people's homes, and so maybe they did go to their doors or however it was arrangeable best at that time. But in this kind of organized manner and nonstop door-to-door and mainly door-to-door versus other options available for reaching people, I don't see that that's something the Bible teaches at all, that it's limited to door-to-door or primarily door-to-door or even door-to-door at all. There's nothing wrong with going door-to-door if that's what you want to do. That's just not something we're required to do. We're required to praise Jah. We're required to promote Jesus. And we're required to treat others the way we want to be treated. So that's what we try to promote. You can preach and teach to others anywhere and any place you can. Just try to do it reasonably, with compassion and understanding. Do it in a way and at a time where people will not feel like you're completely interrupting something they were there to do otherwise. You might take away from the message if you do that and you don't look for the right opportunity. That doesn't mean you always have to have the perfect opening, but we should be aware of who we're talking to, when we're talking, and whether or not our message will be received. Keep those things in mind. And if you feel that the people listening will receive what you have to say, speak. Tell them what you have to say and what Jah is putting in your heart and mind. Remember, Jesus said you don't need to prepare. It's not that preparation is bad. It's just that when you are in a position to be used by Jah and Jesus, the Spirit will tell you what you should say. Our job is just to be prepared to be used and to speak and to say what we know is true and based on the best available reasons. If we do that, even if people don't agree with us, they'll respect us. And even if they don't respect us, we're here to praise Jah. Jesus was not always respected when he did that. So we should not expect it always to be done to us. Keep his example in mind. He's our writing sample. And while we can't match him perfectly, we can do a good job by tracing his letters. And if we forget, go back to the sample, practice some more. It'll get easier. So I thank you all for joining me today. A good day text to keep us moving forward through the letter of 2 Peter and through the New Testament. As we work our way through Revelation, we'll get there and then reset with Genesis. So this Sunday we are going to begin, Jah willing, the new series on pre-Christian evidence that Jesus is the Messiah. So it'll be a CWJah talk show. It'll be part 1. I'm going to be doing multiple parts on this show. And each show will be about one specific text or text group. You know, if it's like Micah 5, 1 through 4, we'll just stay in Micah 5. But we're going to talk about the history of Micah. We're going to discuss the text, its application, use in the New Testament. And we're going to talk about everything that Jesus fulfilled according to what Micah prophesied. And then we'll do the same thing with other texts, Deuteronomy 18, Isaiah 53, Zechariah 12, and many others. So I hope you will enjoy this new series on the Messiah and the pre-Christian evidence that we believe identifies Jesus. So I hope you all will have a wonderful day today. Look forward to joining you again tomorrow. We're still in the letter of 2 Peter, but we won't be in it for much longer. Just a couple more texts, and then we will move to the next document. So thank you all once again. I'll put up a couple videos today on God and time, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for another day text.